Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the SFML 3 tutorial series, and in this video we are going to learn more about graphics with SFML. So the first thing that we are going to look at in this video are window views. So as you remember, if in the last video I said that this top left corner is the 0 0 by default, and the origin is the top left corner, and then it increases X here and Y here, and this is the actual size coordinate and the last coordinate. So that is the default, but we can change that using window views. So a view is basically like a 2D camera. It specifies which part of the window to display, and we can set the view using a SFML window.setView, and we can pass it an SF view. And an SF view has a bunch of different constructors, but the one that we are interested in is that it takes a center. Now this center position represents basically the vector 2 position on which the center of the window is located. So if we set it to 0 0, then the center of the window will be at 0 0 instead of being at the top left. By default this is set to the half of the window size, so that 0 0 is at the top left corner. But if we set this to the default, which means a 0 0 vector, then the center of the window will be at 0 0. And the second part is the size. Now for the size, we can just give it the window size. We can also divide it or multiply it to kind of change how zoomed in we are. Maybe we'll look at that in the future when we implement like a camera that retains its size, for example, or the zoom level regardless of the window size. So to do that, we are going to, for now, we are going to just set it to window.getSize, and of course we need to cast this so that it is an actual vector to f. Now instead of setting the position here, we don't need to do that anymore, since 0 0, or the default position of the shape now, is the center of the window, and you can see it still appears at the center of the window. So yeah, now this center position is 0 0, and this is half of the size, and then this is negative half of the size. Alright, so we have got that, and now the next thing we can do is, as you can see, if I actually run this and resize the window, you can see our circle gets squished and it does not appear the same anymore, and you can see that it is not changing the view when we are resizing. So to handle that, we basically need to handle another event. Just like we're handling the close event, we can add a SF event resized here, and this will handle the resize event. What this will do is that if we want to resize, then we essentially want to set our view again to the new size. So we can just copy this line here and we can paste this here. Now window.getSize will report the new size, so it will essentially update the view to the correct size. So if I go ahead and run that, now you can see now it's working quite nicely, and our circle is appearing the way it should, and yeah, that's working. So yeah, with that we have got our window view working. Now the next thing we are going to look at in this video are textures and sprites in SFML. So currently we are of course drawing a circle shape. Now there are other shapes we can draw as well. Mainly there is our rectangle shape, which as the name implies is a rectangle. We can give it a size, a two-dimensional size, as well as a position, just like the circle. The circle had a radius and a position, so this also has a size. And secondly, we have convex shape, which we can use to make basically a polygon. We can give it a bunch of different points and it will make a convex polygon out of that and draw that. But of course these are all plane shapes, made out of plain colors. But if we want to draw an actual image, a shape that is not just plain colors, then we need to use textures. So first of all, what is a texture? So an SFML texture is essentially a image that lives on the graphics card, which means it's uploaded to the GPU, and then we can access it for drawing. So that is what a texture is. Now it has a bunch of different constructors, but we are going to use the one that allows us to initialize with a file name. So we are going to just give the resources slash I have created an image named test.png here. As you can see, if I go here, we have got a test.png image, and we are going to load that. Now this will load that image and upload it to the GPU's memory so that we can use it for drawing. However, we can't actually draw a texture directly, it's not drawable. We need to create a sprite for that. A sprite is basically a drawable texture. So when we want to draw a texture, it's basically like an object, a drawable object like circle shape, which we can set its position, its color, its rotation, etc. Just like we can do with other shape objects, for example. But this, instead of drawing a plain color, we'll draw a texture. So we can create a sprite here and we can initialize it with our texture, and that will set that up. Now let's go ahead and draw instead of drawing the shape, let's try to draw our sprite here. And if I go ahead and run that now, what you should see is that we get that image here. So you can see we have got the red image here. Now of course the top left corner of the origin of this sprite itself is at the top left corner. So if we want to change that, we can go ahead and say sprite.set origin, just like we did that, and we can go ahead and say sprite.get size. Well, actually it doesn't give us the size, it will give us the scale of the sprite, which will be 1 by default, and then we can multiply that by our texture dot size to get the basically the actual size of the sprite. And of course we need to cast this to a vector to f, and after that we will have a so if we want this to appear at the center, we want the origin of the sprite to be at the center, we can use sprite.set origin here. We will pass a vector to f here. The x, it is not possible to get the size directly here because there is no get size, but there is a get scale, which will give us basically the scale of the sprite on the x and the y axis, and we can take the on the x axis, for example, and multiply it by texture dot get size dot x. And similarly we can do sprite dot get scale dot y multiply texture dot get size dot y, and we can divide this whole thing by 2 to set the origin to the center. Now if I go ahead and run that, you can see that it is actually at the center now. And of course we can change this so that instead of setting the shapes position, we are setting our sprites position, and now we can move it like that. So actually we need to change this, instead of shape.get position we need to do sprite.get position. That's important. So if I go ahead and run that now, which you can see is that we can move this around and it works quite nicely. So anyways guys, this is going to be pretty much it for this video. We have got the sprite setup in this video as well as a working window view. In the next video we'll start developing the actual game, so make sure to stay tuned for that, and like and subscribe and share this video with other people as well, and bye.